Let's look at this one more time. According to the legend of the last hero, it says the last hero had 12 companions. They all died, leaving the last hero as the sole survivor. He eventually reached the children to get their assistance, and the Night's Watch was formed and won the Battle of the Dawn, which sent the others into retreat, possibly to the lands of always winter. So, as I was saying, if the first hero eventually became a White Walker, it's very possible that he's the one that reanimated his 12 dead companions, and those men together became the first men of the Night's Watch. And they helped fight the Battle of the Dawn. And when the last hero, as a White Walker, led the White Walkers back to the lands of always winter, his 12 companions went with him. And I think that one of those companions was actually who we know right now as our Night's King.
Maybe magic once was a mighty force in the world, but not anymore.
So the White Walkers use necromancy to control the army of the dead. Necromancy is just a form of magic that allows you to control the dead. So with White Walkers being magical beings themselves, it's not far off to say that they were probably affected by magic just like everything else. Maybe for a long time their magic was so weak that it was impossible, or at least really freaking hard, for them to raise the dead and control them. But now that magic has begun to grow stronger on the planet, their magic has begun to grow stronger too. So anyway, we know within this story that history tends to repeat itself, and rebellions are things that have happened over and over again. And so maybe this is kind of what happened with our Night King. Like I said, if there was no pact made, if we're not going that route, the only way that you would be able to get the White Walkers to like just stop fighting and go back home and stay there for thousands and thousands of years is to control them. But how do you think it feels to be controlled? To not be able to exercise your own free will, to be stuck being something that you don't even want to be for thousands and thousands of years. You'd feel like a slave. And slavery and breaking free from slavery has been something consistent throughout this entire story. Maybe one of the last hero's companions, our Night's King, maybe he felt that way, like he was a slave and he was stuck. But as magic began to get stronger, he was able to break free to do his own thing, kind of like the Baratheon brothers. He declared himself king, he took some of the homies with him, and he started building his army of the dead to get revenge or go after whatever it is he wants to go after. Not even going to begin to speculate on his exact motivation, but he wants something. But maybe it's been the last hero, the one that's been keeping the White Walkers at bay all this time. He's the one that's been trying to stop them. So this is just a little bit of a side note, but if you look at the cave drawings of the White Walkers, that one in the back is facing in a different direction than the rest of them. This could signify that maybe he didn't want to do what everybody else was doing. He wants to break free and go his own way. Now, I know that this is kind of a stretch, but I thought it was interesting, so I figured I'd throw it out there anyway. Let's take a deeper dive and look at some of the White Walkers' magic throughout the series. Check this scene out.
The White Walker stabbed me in the gut with a sword of ice. Left me there to die. Sure.
So the White Walkers stabbed him, they left him there to die, and then the children were able to get to him before the magic could take hold.
If they'd been dead for a long time, wouldn't they be rot?
Lord Commander?
So I show you these two scenes just to kind of point out that we actually have no idea how long it was taking for bodies to be reanimated early on. It just seemed like the MO was that the White Walkers would kill somebody and then basically just leave them. They just leave them there and just wait for them to be reanimated. We don't see anybody immediately reanimated until season 5 when we get to Hardhome.
He did. He came in through the back of the hood. Only it wasn't Bruni. Not really.
This stuck out to me because she mentions that Bruni came through the back of the hut. These early whites don't seem to be under total mind control like in later seasons. They seem to be, or are at least familiar with, who they used to be. Bruni knew how to go home, and that previous dude seem to know how to get to the Lord Commander. So it's almost like there's still a part of them that exists. They're just like evil killers now. So it seems like the whites from early on that were just killed and left to reanimate on their own, after they raised, they still held on to a little semblance of who they used to be, which in my mind would make them a little harder to control. And then later on, the whites that we see that were raised directly from the White Walkers' magic, those guys seem to be under total and complete mind control, which leads to the question, why in the world were the White Walkers leaving people to just change on their own? And I think the answer to that's actually pretty simple. I think it's because in the beginning, their magic just wasn't strong enough to do anything about it. That was the only thing they could do. I'll explain a little bit more of that in a minute. So let's go back to that first scene with Will, Garrett, and Waymore. What if it was these guys, the Night King's crew, who initially killed this group of wildlings and left them to change? And it was these guys, the OG White Walkers, that were kind of acting like a cleanup crew. They were following the Night King's crew around, and they're the ones that were dismembering the bodies to make them useless before they could reanimate. Since they can't actually communicate, they're the ones that left this warning symbol, and they did let Will go on purpose to go warn people. Like, look, bro, there's some really fucked up shit headed your way. You really need to go tell people. The reason that I call symbols warning signs is because of where we see them. They were found at the Fist of the First Men when Sam found the dragon glass. That whole little package was obviously filled with things to help men against the White Walkers. In the cave drawings at Dragonstone, we have the White Walkers, and people have commented that the Night King looks different because of his facial hair, but maybe it's because he actually is different. And then we have the children standing behind the men with the symbols under the men. To me, this means the symbols are intended for men as a warning. Now, just as a real quick side note, since I'm talking about the cave drawings anyway, I mean, this might be one of those things where, like, it's a stretch, but I decided to throw it in here anyway. But I mean, you look at that top picture, and that White Walker got some weird shit around his mouth. And then that bottom picture, you have, like, the leader dude, and he's got some homies standing behind him. I mean, I could just be, like, crazy, but, who knows? I'm just going to leave it there and let you decide for yourself. There have been other warning signs, like this scene after the ambush at the Fist. It was the Night King's crew that was behind the ambush, but it was the last hero's crew that came and chopped this guy's head off and staged it like this. It was kind of an instruction of what humans should do with their dead, as well as a warning. We have this scene with Sam that I showed in the beginning, and I know people debate whether or not the walker actually saw Sam. I personally think he did, but even if he didn't see him, like old Nan said, the others can smell the warm blood. So either way, they totally knew Sam was there. And as he was leading his army north, he spared Sam.
Stay back!
In that scene, the White Walker could have easily killed Sam, but clearly he didn't. He didn't even try. All he did was grab the sword and then knock Sam out of the way. All he wanted was the baby. He didn't care about killing Sam, but why? So I just want to point this out. If I was able to translate Scroth, this is what I think the White Walker was saying in that scene. You stupid asshole! I was trying to help you! Stop! Damn it! Oh, stupid humans! And the winner for Best Game of Thrones voiceover for a theory video goes to me! Okay, let's get serious. Back to Craster's sons. When we see the walker take baby 98, it's one of the OG walkers. The next one that tries to take baby 99, little Sam, was also an OG walker, but he was unsuccessful. The walker that took baby 100, we never saw what he looked like when he took him, but later on, we do see that it's actually one of the Night King's crew that's taken the baby to the Night King's altar. I think the OG walkers from season 1 through 3 were trying to get to the babies before the Night King's crew could, because the babies have something to do with being able to strengthen their magic. And like I said before, the reason why the White Walkers in the beginning were just leaving people there to change is because their magic wasn't yet strong enough to do anything about it. So if you're keeping score, the OG Walkers got baby 98 and the Night King's crew got baby 100. Before baby 98, it seems like the most that the OG White Walkers could do is chop up the dead bodies before the magic took hold to make them useless. But after they got baby 98, we see one of the OGs commanding his own army. Baby 98 made his magic stronger. Now, before I get to baby 100, I need to tell you why I think they spared both Will and Sam each time they had a chance to kill him, and it has absolutely nothing to do with them being special. We only ever see the OG White Walkers kill 2 people. In that opening scene, when they kill Waymore, it's only Garrett and Waymore standing there. Will isn't with them. The White Walker kills Waymore in front of Garrett and then lets Garrett go. He chases him off. And maybe at this point, they intended for Garrett to live, to carry on the message. And while they're chasing Garrett off, they realize that, yep, there's another person out there, Will. So then they kill Garrett in front of Will and make that big display of throwing Garrett's head at him, and then let Will go to warn others. I think these killings were an act of desperation. The OGs aren't mindlessly killing people willy-nilly like the Night King crew. They're on our side. They're trying to help mankind, but they needed to send a strong and terrifying message to these men of the Night's Watch of what may be coming their way. Sam is another man of the Night's Watch, and he was alone when they passed him by. They spared him so that he could go warn others of what he saw. And yes, we did see the OG Walker commanding an army of the dead, but we never actually saw who killed those people.
The fist of the first men.
What did you see?
Dead crows. It's only horses. No men.
You said there was dead crows.
There was.
Always the artists.
Just like I said before, I think this was the Night King's crew that came and killed all those people at the Fist. But at that point, their magic wasn't strong enough to do anything about it, so they did what they've been doing, killing people and just leaving them there. The OG White Walker's power from Baby 98 was new. He may not have even realized that he was capable of raising the dead on command until after it happened. This could explain the spiral warning made out of the horse parts instead of human parts. They reanimated the dead and used the horse parts to leave a warning sign. And going back to my very first point in this video, this is why they're walking in the wrong direction. The last hero is leading his new army north, far, far away from the realms of men. After the Night King got his hands on baby 100 and did whatever he did to the baby at the altar, we see him do something that we haven't seen done before. Baby 100 enhanced his power, and now, instead of just leaving the bodies laying around to be reanimated on their own, we see him able to raise thousands of dead bodies instantly. So let me get back to those changes that I was talking about earlier. The Three-Eyed Raven, the Children of the Forest, and the White Walkers only appear in one episode in Season 4. We don't see the changes with the Three-Eyed Raven or the children until Season 6. I mean, it was only one episode, so you can't tell me they couldn't have splurged on those low-budget costumes. But they did upgrade the White Walkers in Season 4. This scene here is the only episode in Season 4 where we see White Walkers. This is a member of the Night King's crew carrying baby 100. This is the first time we ever see a White Walker wearing armor. This is why I think that we're not even trying to hide it. Change with the Three-Eyed Raven and the children's shitty-ass costumes were part of the plan all along. They always knew that they were going to make those changes. They did this so when we see the new armored White Walkers, it doesn't seem like any big deal. They were able to use it as a tool to trick us so that we didn't realize that there were 2 different teams of White Walkers hiding in plain sight, right before our very eyes.